Already got my scissors. Got some paintbrushes. Get my pencil. Oh, hey, how are you guys? So I'll put this out of the way, get my backpack out of the way. Hey y'all, it's so good to see you. My name is Brad and I have some really good news for you. You can probably guess what it is because you already saw me packing my bag. That's right, we are going on another field trip. These are always super special episodes because we get a chance to meet all my talented artist friends. I have so many really talented artist friends that I want to introduce you to. And the best part is they get to be our art teacher for the day. Every artist has their own unique personal style and I love to see what they create. So let me introduce you to my good friend, Sarah Krajewski. People also call her the art room glitter fairy, but I'll let her tell you that story. Sarah's an amazing elementary art school teacher and abstract artist in Wisconsin. I love her work because it's bright, it's fun, and yes, it's glittery. Are you guys ready to meet her? All right, well then let's go. Hey, Sarah.
Hey Brad, thanks for having me. I am an art teacher for kids in kindergarten through 5th grade. I am also a writer for an art teacher magazine and I'm an artist as well. And the kind of art that I love to make is abstract art, which of course is artwork that doesn't really look like a specific thing, but instead is made from shapes and lines and colors and things that bring people joy. So I love making really bright, colorful abstract art, kind of like you can see behind me in my studio. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about how I make my art. So I actually usually use interior house paint, which comes in these little tiny jars. And part of it is because my favorite feeling is opening with my muscles a new jar of paint and seeing that really bright, vibrant color on the inside, because it just kind of makes me feel happy. So I love really bright colors when I make my work, and I typically use a whole bunch of bright colored paint. Sometimes I'll experiment with other kinds of materials like spray paint or gold paint or collage using paper to layer different kinds of designs, but my artwork looks something like this. It's made from shapes, designs. Oh, there's even a little bit of glitter on this one. Do you see it? And then the gold paint over here too. And the way that I layer my shapes and colors just kind of is how I follow my heart, and it brings me joy. So these I like to call happy abstracts because they make me happy and I hope they make other people happy. There you can see some spray paint. And it's a fun way for me to just use my creativity to kind of let my feelings out and see what happens. So today we're going to make our own kind of abstract art by layering some shapes and colors and designs and see what we come up with. And the awesome thing about art, remember, is there's not really a wrong way to do it. Anything that you create is your own expressive creativity. So let's get started. To make our happy abstract work today, we're going to be using some simple tools like a piece of paper, some sort of coloring materials like marker or crayons, and then I'll be using things like a pencil to sketch out my design and a Sharpie marker to just give it a nice bold outline. Now, when you look at some happy abstractions, the awesome thing is that there are so many kinds of options. There are certainly some favorite kinds of lines and shapes and designs that I tend to use a lot in my work, but there's really not a wrong way to do it. So let's take a few examples of some shapes. For example, this kind of like little 3-tiered wiggly, what would we call that? Maybe like a jellyfish kind of shape because it's kind of dropping those tentacles down. I like to call these knots because it kind of looks like a knot that's made with a different paint line here. There's also things like arches. I do a lot of like squigglies, like a bacon line. See, here's some more arches. This is that kind of jellyfish shape. There's even some bigger, huge kind of knots that go all over the page. So if you find a shape or a line or a design that you really like, we're gonna start with that. So the first thing I usually do is to make some bold shapes at the beginning, and then I'll layer on top a little bit with some of the things like the little confettis or some lines that wiggle along my page, some zigzags. So we're gonna start with just a few basic shapes. So I like to start with a pencil for this project so we can plan out what we want everything to look like at the beginning. So I'm gonna start with something like that big, huge kind of bean shape, and I'm gonna give it that little wiggly jellyfish on the bottom. Now remember, your artwork does not need to look like mine, but if you wanna practice abstraction and you wanna try copying it at the beginning, of course you can. I'm also going to do another big shape. I'm thinking maybe like a big, huge zigzag over here. So it comes down, and down, and then I'm gonna come back up, whoa, all the way up this way. to fill my space. Then I'm going to do some things like lines and designs. Now, some of them might overlap in front of each other. That means when something else goes in front of another object. So if I have something that's filling in this area, I might need to erase. So let's say I'm going to do something in this space right here and erase it and fill it in with a circle that's going to be filled with all sorts of little sprinkles. So I'm going to fill that in. I feel like I need something kind of down here, and I like that bacon shape. So again, I'm going to do a little erase and fill in where I'd like it to be. So I'm going to go up, come down, up. This will be a little skinny bacon. Oh boy. There we go. And then I can fill in this design. And now maybe I'm going to do some lines, but I might do those at the end. I'm trying to decide. I think if I look back at some of the other examples that I have, I've got these little like confettis that are coming across the page. So I'll do a few of those. I like how those fill the space. And I just want to practice a little bit of balance. And balance is when you feel like everything kind of makes sense on your page and it fills in your composition or how you organize your paper in a way that is really appealing or a way that really looks awesome as the viewer sees your work. So I think maybe I'm just going to do another little line, but I'm going to do that with a color in a second. So now it is time for me to trace. So I've got my base shapes on my paper, and I'm going to just trace those with either a color or a Sharpie. So now you can go to work using your tools. Alright friends, now it's time to add a few more details. So I'm going to go back in with my markers over the top because I already colored, and then I did some outlining with the black just to make it really pop and make my shapes nice and bold. But I can go back in with a darker color and do things like patterns, details, lines, designs on the top. So I love these kind of sprinkles. In fact, I'm going to have some of my sprinkles exploding out of this little yellow shape and have them kind of coming over this way. So they're filling my space. So I'm just gonna have fun with it a little bit. So I'm just really liking following my heart. It's kind of like intuitive artwork, which means there's not really a wrong way to do it. You're just gonna kind of keep creating. So now I'm gonna go over here, maybe do some lines, and I like how these overlap over the top of the purple and fill in my space there. It's kind of like a dance party with all these shapes. We got all sorts of stuff going on. I'm even gonna do one of those knots on the bottom here. So I'm gonna fill my space, do some of those loopy lines. Ooh-wee! I like that. Let's see. It looks like maybe I need some other bright colors like this yellow. In fact, something else that I really like to add on my work, I like to call this pepper. So if you look at this spot right here, it looks like kind of gold pepper, all these little pepper lines. And they happen on a lot of my art pieces. Like this one is black. And this one right here is another black one, because I really love the look of splatter. Now, because we're not using paint today, we could even kind of mimic or do a kind of practice pretend of doing some pepper on our projects too. So let's take that black again and do a little bit of some dark pepper here. So that means I'm going to draw some dots that are different sizes. Some are bigger, some might be a little bit overlapping or close to each other, as if I just did a splatter paint on my paper. So I'm going to give it some pepper over here and have that fill my space. Some little tiny peppers in this spot. And I think the last thing I need to do is I'm going to make one big yellow shape on this bottom corner, because I think I need to fill that space just a little bit. Some pepper up in there. Ooh, doo, doo, doo. This is usually pretty fun if you're using a paintbrush too. Okay, feel good about that. Then I'm going to do a nice dark yellow shape. I think I'm going to do some of those arches. And the cool thing about using markers is when you overlap them, they kind of practice color mixing too. So if I'm doing something like pink over the top of purple, it sort of makes this purplish pink. So let's see what happens when I do some yellow arches over the top of this one. Oh yeah, that transparency where I can see through colors. It's pretty awesome. Woo! What do you think? One more? Maybe up here? Looks like I need something there. So now I look at the balance. I see if there's anything else I need to add. Looks like I might want to just have a couple more of my little sprinkles coming up this way. So again, I just follow my heart. I feel what I think I might need to add to my project to feel if there's anything else that I'm missing. I kind of go from there. So take a look at your project and see if there's any spaces that need just a little bit more art love. Hey friends, I had so much fun making that abstraction. Now there's one more thing we have to do. One of my favorite things when I finish a piece of art is to title it. Now let me tell you a secret about how I title it. Because I use house paint to do my paintings, and house paint colors have really awesome paint titles on their like little cards when you pick a color, I always like to pick something that's kind of close to my picture, like a color that's sort of in there, like this orange one, and then I'll name my painting the color that it's called on the sample. So for example, there's a lot of cool colors in here, like this one says sunset pink, neon blue, gumdrops, and this one right here is called tart orange. So that's gonna be the title of my work. So I'm gonna write it underneath here in fancy writing, tart orange. And then you need to sign your work, because as an artist, we always have to practice that ownership and pride over what we create. So if you look at my work, I got my initials here on the bottom and then tart orange on the side. I had so much fun making abstract art with you today. It's really fun to experiment and just follow your heart when you make something. You can follow along with anything else that I create, or if you want to learn a little bit more about how I teach my students, you can follow me on Instagram at ArtRoomGlitterFairy. That's kind of a silly name because if I can tell you a story, in my classroom, when my students use glitter, instead of getting glitter all over the art room, I become the glitter fairy and I put on wings and a tutu, and they have to visit the glitter fairy to get the glitter on their paper. So they're the glue fairies and they glue, and then they bring their paper over to the glitter fairy and the glitter fairy puts the glitter on. So be sure to follow along at ArtRoomGlitterFairy. I'm working on lots of cool projects. For example, right now I am in the works of making a children's book, which I'm super excited to share with you all. So stay tuned on that. But remember, no matter how you make your work, always be brave, be creative, and most importantly, be you. Have fun, artists.
Wow, that was so much fun. How did yours turn out? Awesome! I hope you guys at least had a ton of fun. That's the really cool thing about abstract art. You don't have to draw anything specific. You can just use shapes or colors and textures and glitter and just do something that makes you really, really happy. That's a whole lot of fun. What a neat art style. And we gotta thank Sarah for teaching it today. That was so kind of her to come and do that. Well, thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for future field trips, and I'll see you next time.